Hello folks, welcome back to another video where we discuss a research article. In this one, we are looking at the study titled Questionable Research Practices Revisited by Klaus Fiedler and Norbert Schwarz. I hope I pronounced the names of the authors correctly. I apologize if I didn't. Please note that in this presentation, QRP refers to Questionable Research Practice. My name is Robin. Let's dive in. So let's begin by looking at the overall narrative of the study because I found it really interesting. As you would have understood by now that this study revolves around questionable research practices, which primarily refers to some unethical practices that researchers might engage in for a variety of reasons. This study pertains to a specific self-report survey developed by a group of researchers to identify the proportion and prevalence of certain questionable research practices in the field of behavioral science. This survey is a frequently cited survey used by many fellow researchers in the field, and that is where our authors come in. Through this article, there is some concerns regarding the test items, their validity, their interpretation, and report problems with overestimation of prevalence of various QRPs. They then break each QRP item into two components. We will visit them later in the presentation. They implement a new survey study with more than 1,000 participants. In this study, they observed that the results estimated a lower proportion and prevalence of questionable research practices, which leads them to conclude that previous estimates were higher due to problematic design and interpretation. This is then followed by a short discussion. So this slide is basically the overview that we just discussed. Please feel free to pause the video and have a look. So now let's move to the problems with the original survey as identified by the authors. The first inconsistency pointed out is that the items were ambiguous and did not provide space for participants to communicate reasons and putting the situation into context. For example, one of the items asked the participants if they failed to report all of a study's dependent measures. But the authors claim that this may refer to not reporting some of the extra analyses that is run by researchers, which is a common practice. To this end, they make an amendment to these items by adding measures that are relevant for a finding in order to clarify the fact that this item actually refers to not reporting measures which were actually relevant and important. Another example here which asks the participants if they selectively reported a study that worked. But the authors again claim that an answer could still be yes without that being a questionable research practice, as it is common practice for researchers to run many pilot studies before actually writing a paper or an article around a study where they got favorable results. And they made a similar amendment to this by adding a phrase which mentioned not reporting studies which were related to a specific finding. The second problem identified by the authors is that of interpreting the high proportions and prevalence of a certain questionable research practice. To put this into simple terms, the survey items only ask the participants if they have ever engaged in a certain practice and then report high yes responses as prevalence of that practice in the field, which might not be true. A researcher might have only once in their lives engaged in a particular questionable research practice, but that should not be used as a proxy for the prevalence of that questionable research practice across all their studies. So that was one incorrect interpretation that I talked about. The amendment that the authors made to tackle this issue was that they added an extra layer of a question asking the yes respondents to estimate the probability which they exhibited a particular QRP across their studies. And here we see the impact of such an amendment, which actually significantly reduces the prevalence of a particular behavior. As you can see, if 60% of respondents respond yes to a particular QRP, but that behavior is only exhibited 10% on average, but the prevalence factor that is interpreted from this situation is only 6% as compared to the original 60%. And finally, since the original survey also included questions about others' behavior, the authors also point out the fact that it is highly unlikely for the participants to have thorough knowledge of QRPs committed by fellow researchers. And the proportion of yes responses might be higher as participants will resort to using simple heuristics. They also discuss a short study with 35 graduate students and conclude that inference from items reporting other people's engagement in a questionable research practice should be drawn with caution. So this was about it, the problems identified by the authors, and here we look at the 10 original items used in the survey, which were then modified and used in a new survey by the authors. So we jump into the new study. Here the authors did not ask participants to report engagement or in QRPs by other researchers, so that was one thing that was taken off completely. And for the 10 QRP items, in addition to asking if yes or no, if the participant engaged in a QRP, they also asked the frequency. The authors also modified the survey items while maintaining the essential meaning that was the target behind that item. And the prevalence was calculated in two ways. First, calculating the overall average repetition percentage by setting the percentage to 0 where the response was in no. And then the other method was multiplying for each item the proportion of yes responders by the average repetition percentage for that item. And as we can see here, in both the cases, the two values of prevalence percentage were virtually identical for all items. Here you can also see the modifications made in the items of this. These are represented in italics, and it might be a good idea to pause the video and compare these with the items that were shown previously. And as we move on to the results, the authors share that when QRP prevalence is computed as the product of the admission proportion of yes responders and the average repetition percentage, the resulting prevalence estimates are indeed much lower. There was also a lower non-zero admission proportions, overall proportions. The authors refrain from speculating on whether this discrepancy, which appears to arise from both modified items and unmodified items, if it is due to researcher populations, because this study was carried out in Germany as compared to the original study, which was carried out with participants from the United States. And they also refrain from speculating on whether this discrepancy arose due to the subtle differences in the questioning procedure. At the same time, they also found that same practices were identified as most common across both the measures, with a high correlation coefficient of 0.84. In addition, they found out that the highest prevalence was observed in those items which were still ambiguous. For example, not reporting all dependent measures or all analyses can simply reflect a justifiable behavior like editorial request, a request coming in from the editorial board of a journal to remove extra analyses or extra measures which are not relevant to the study. But at the same time, they say that a sizable rate of unambiguous norm violations should not be ignored, and this points to the fact that a significant number of researchers might be engaging in questionable research practices. And finally, in the discussion section, the authors mention that since the 10 items that were around some specific questionable research practices constitute a convenient sample of research practices that may have been selected based on the author's intuition about those behaviors, and some other questionable research practices might have been left out. The list of behaviors identified as QRPs may or may not be justifiable, and this will depend on a specific case, on a specific article. So that is something which needs to be kept in mind while making inferences of the results. Additionally, the authors identify that the survey items pose a complex memory and estimation task for the participants, asking the participants to remember if they engage in a certain practice, and then also asking them to associate a probability factor by which they engage in a particular QRP across their studies. And finally, they also discuss the fact that it is likely that participants will definitely respond yes to at least some of the items, since repetitive no responses to a long list of items is kind of against the conversational norms. The authors conclude by saying that while it is a good practice to keep track of questionable research practices in which researchers might engage in, but at the same time, such erroneous estimates of prevalence of bad practice must be corrected to prevent them from damaging the public reputation of science. So this was it. This was an overview, a summary of the article, and I hope you do not engage in any questionable research practice in your research career. Thank you.